everybody, this is Rich Hanlin with Mortgage Ballers, and today I have Alexander Lexington. You're going to enjoy this particular conversation because I know some things about Alexander, but you don't. And if you think that life is easy, it's not. 2023 was tough, but you're looking at one of our best of the best, one of our top people in our company for 2023. Not only did he close enough loans to be one of our best of the best, but when he tells you kind of what he's been doing,
isn't it 24?
Also on top of it. Oh, you're right. 24. Wow. Corrected. We're in 25. Last year was 2024. God forbid I'm still in 2023. He's one of our best of the best 2024. Sorry about that. Thanks for the correction. Most people just let it slide by. All right. Now, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Tell everybody where you're at right now.
So I'm out of Casper, Wyoming. We made the move about 7-8 months ago, last July. Before that, we were in Sheridan. And before that, native to Florida. So quite a big move. We traded the beach for the mountains, essentially.
When I first met you, wasn't it at UWM? Were you still in Florida or were you in Wyoming?
No, we were already in Wyoming at that point. And that's right when I came on board with Xpert. I think it was like maybe a couple weeks after.
Yeah, literally. How did you hear about Xpert Home Lending? And then obviously you went right to UWM right out of the chute, it seemed like.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in the broker channel pretty much since I started out in mortgage lending. Love the broker channel. I've heard stories about retail and what it entails. Not particularly a fan, but Stephanie Gilbert out of Sheridan, her and I, we sat down, had a meeting. She was thinking about coming over to the broker channel, and she kind of pitched me Xpert because at that point I was with Nexa, and I considered it and pretty much came on board a little while after.
Now, I don't know this answer. Are you part of the altitude team too, or do you guys just were,
pretty much just separate
business friends? Okay.
Yeah.
Could I say, wait, I didn't know that. No, that's awesome. Stephanie was actually our number one overall out of 623 people. Just for the record, Alexander was 34th, tied for 34th out of 623 originators. Congratulations for 2024.
Working my way up there.
Yeah, you are. But I think it's more incredible, not only with 2024 was hard, let alone 2023, but 2024 wasn't easy for anybody. A lot of people left the industry, but instead you got really busy doing some other things. I know a small story. Number one, you're standing in a new house that you guys just bought. When did you close on that?
That was on the 18th of last month. Yep.
Congratulations on that. Because when people don't understand, it's what he was doing prior to that. Tell everybody a little bit about what you were doing prior to this house.
So prior to this house, we were in one side of a duplex, 750 square feet, 4 kids. So a little bit of a sacrifice, if I can say that out loud. But we essentially wanted to provide a better future, both for us, for our kids, for, everything financially. And house hacking, some of you may know it, some of you may not, is when you're able to pick up a multifamily home with the caveat of a down payment of a smaller down payment, as long as you live in it. And that's exactly what we did. Again, no means was it easy, but now we are pretty much living in not a dream home, but a very, very nice home. After this, we're going to probably want a custom build, but we're very happy with where we're at.
No, congratulations on that. Are you part of any investor groups like Bigger Pockets or anything like that?
No, I'm not.
All right. Because not everybody knows that house hacking thought process. That's really big on Bigger Pockets, especially when you're younger. Being able to live in that investment, getting that lower down payment. Did you guys do like an FHA loan, or what kind of loan did you do on that?
So I did a conventional and picked it up. I think it was 5% down. We did on it. And then while we were living in one unit, we were converting the other unit to an Airbnb. We launched that at the very beginning of this month. Wyoming, by no means, is an easy market to launch something like that in. And January, February, dead of winter. But we have been fortunate enough. I mean, did a lot of work designing it, trying to make sure that it is one of the best on the market, and it's been pretty much booked all the way through. We already have summer slots already filling up, and now we're working on getting that second unit set up on Airbnb as well, since we now have moved on into a bigger home.
Are you guys managing that yourself, or do you have a Airbnb manager?
So we are managing everything ourselves. That is one thing that we're going to be looking into. Not necessarily the managing part, but the cleaning part. Right
Okay.
now, we're self-cleaning just to make sure that everything is, 100% up there with our expectations. We did have a cleaner that we interviewed, gave a shot, but it just wasn't what we needed as far as spec and up to the quality. Because I mean, at this point, I think we have 12 or 13 all 5-star ratings. So that's one of the most important, we feel, is to keep that rating up there to get those more to get more bookings essentially.
So if somebody needs to come there, they can Airbnb your property. What's in that area that's the draw for people to do the Airbnb? Is there skiing by? Is there lakes by? What's the main draw there?
So there is we do have some slopes. Hagedon, that's about a 20-minute drive from downtown. And then there's a ton of events that happen throughout the year, especially for high school sports. People travel all across Wyoming for those events. And then in the summer, we're going to have rodeo and whatnot. And then it's also a destination for fly fishing.
Okay.
Miracle Mile is, I believe, about an hour or so drive up into the mountains. And that's some of the best trout fishing in the world.
Wow.
And then also it's going to be a pretty nice pit stop for people traveling through for Yellowstone, for Tetons, etc.
All right. I'm going to ask because I know that you were in Florida. How in the world do you go from Florida beach weather to Wyoming snow weather? I mean, there must be a reasoning behind that.
So, I mean, I've always loved the mountains, always been drawn to it. Born and raised in sunshine and beaches. We've traveled out to Denver, Colorado area into the mountains quite a bit. So that's where I thought we'd end up. But we found a little mountain town called Sheridan, and we just made the plunge and just took a chance, made the move, and Sheridan was nice, beautiful, but with 4 kids, it's a little too slow paced for us. So not enough going on as far as events, museums, things like that. Here in Casper, we got quite a bit going on. Downtown, we have a place called Davis Street Station that hosts a bunch of events during summertime. Spring,
Okay.
we had they had an ice rink up all winter essentially, and kids could go ice skating. So it's just a lot more to do.
Well, right on. No, I like it. I mean, if you're not afraid to make changes, I mean, I was in California for 54 years. I've been in Georgia now for 3. That was a big deal when I left. I've never thought I'd leave, but I did. There was opportunity and it made sense. Georgia is where I landed. So, um, all right. So we know, and I think have you gotten your realtor license as well, or you're getting it?
No, I did. About a year and a half ago, I pulled the trigger on the real estate license, and it was actually one of my friends who's also a realtor. She was like, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and get your real estate license? It just kind of goes hand in hand." So I did. She's mentored me through it all, and it plays hand in hand. Doing mortgages, doing real estate. Obviously, there's different caveats to each hat, but it's nice to be able to wear both for some to help some people out.
Sure. No, it makes you more well-rounded. You get to understand the psychology on that side, the psychology on the loan side. I think you become better at both because you have these a little with that better understanding. You ask a few extra questions if you hear the red flags. Um, you just sound very seasoned, and then you've added the investor part of it because we were talking about investors don't worry about rates, they worry about numbers, and if the numbers work, and something happens after you do that first rental or Airbnb. It's just you now talk the talk and walk the walk. And a lot of investors, I mean, it was that way with me. I didn't really do a lot of investors because they're like, you just don't understand it till you're on our side. Well, then I got my first investment, then my second investment. I flipped a couple houses. I'm like, all of a sudden I could talk a little bit differently. And just knowing that I've done that, it opened doors, and people are like, no, this is the right person. He'll get it. He'll understand it. So I like that. Um, to me, every loan officer, every real estate agent should at least have one rental property. So many of us go through our careers in the loan industry. We get towards the end, and I've helped so many investors. Some of them have 100 doors, and I'm like, I'm helping these people become quadrillionaires. Why am I not also helping myself? Why is my loan officers and real estate agents, most of them don't have a rental property? And I'm like, we have all these programs now, especially with DSCR and stuff like that, to make it really easy to get into a property. And who knows their areas better than a real estate agent? They know when a good property comes up, when it's priced well and things like that. But talk about the next level, house hacking, things like that. That's very powerful, especially if you can get into multi-units. So good job on that one. All right. I want to know something. How hard, because you've done something that a lot of people haven't. How hard was the transition on loans for you going from Florida to Wyoming? Like, do you still do loans in Florida as well, or are you in multiple states? Or did you have to kind of reinvent yourself when you got to Wyoming?
No, so I still do quite a bit of business in Florida. I have friends there, and my real estate relationships. It's one of those things where the real estate relationships you build out, those become more than just business relationships, right? They're business at the core, but they turn into friendships. So, I've maintained contact with a lot of those connections. So I still do quite a bit of business in Florida. And then when I moved to Wyoming, just started weaving my web out here and building out relationships again.
No, I mean, that's the hardest thing to do in a hard economy is to move and start over. Um, but it's like once you figure out how to get business, I could almost blindfold you and drop you in any city in the US, and boom, you're just going to pick it up and get going again. That's one thing I've noticed of our best of the best people every year is they have a methodology. They wake up every morning. They kind of know what they're doing. They know what not to do. They don't waste a lot of time on the things that haven't worked in the past. So congratulations. I think you're doing fantastic. So we know that you got real estate. We know you've house hacked. We know that you just bought another house. We know that you know how to make business even after traveling from one state to another. We know you got four mouths to feed on there. But when you're not doing all that, what kind of hobbies do you like to do? Who are you when you're not doing loans and real estate and house hacking and all that?
So, that's one of the reasons we moved out to Wyoming is the nature aspect of it. I love hiking. I love being outdoors, national parks, all of that stuff. So, honestly, love just road tripping, traveling to different cities, just really going out, being there for a couple days and kind of exploring and seeing, what that city's about.
How far is Yellowstone from you?
Yellowstone, about a 4 hour drive.
About a 4 hour drive. Okay. If you ever get there, we'll re-interview. Obviously we all watch the show, but I've never been there. It's a big place. I know some people have been through Yellowstone, but
Yeah, we've been there a few times already.
Is
It's
it as
beautiful.
beautiful as it looks?
Oh man, and more. It's breathtaking. Yeah.
All right. The prettiest, beautiful, I shouldn't say prettiest. That sounds weird out of my mouth. The, the coolest place I've ever seen in my life is with my own eyes, and it was incredible, was Yosemite up in the middle of California by Fresno. I lived there my whole life, and I only went there once just a few years ago. My wife and I drove up there. We said, hey, if we're going to leave, we might go check it out.
Yeah.
And you go through this tunnel that they built through the mountain because it just looks like you're out in the middle of nowhere. And then you drive through this like tunnel that they dug through this mountain, and it opens up, and you have no choice but to stop and pull over. I mean, it starts with 1,000-foot waterfall off the side of of, these huge cliffs where you got mountain climbers on there, free solo climbers. You got Half Dome up there. You're just like, holy crap. We actually tried to make it to Half Dome. We made about halfway. 4 hours up. We're like, okay, it's going to take us 4 hours to get back down. A lot of people camp and then we'll go up more. But yeah, I shouldn't have waited till I got old. I was upset. My sons have never been there. And I thought, damn, I would have been here 4 or 5 times over the years. But it
Yeah.
was beautiful. I felt like I walked back in time. It's very well preserved and protected back there. So I can imagine not Yosemite, Yellowstone would be cool like that too. I hope to get out there one time. It's got to be the summer though. I ain't coming out in the winter.
Yeah. We were fortunate enough to see brown bears each time with cubs. Best time to go would probably be April-ish. April, May, end of April, early mid May, depending on weather, obviously, because then you're beating the tourist season. Come June, July, it gets so packed in there. Also, gets pretty hot, so it's nice to be able to be up there when it's still, sweater weather.
Well, you see the pictures of people getting out of their cars trying to get pictures of buffalo and stuff like that, and you're like, "Are you out of your mind?" Those are wild animals. Why would you do that? Just crazy. I like it. All right. So, what's it take to be a first-time home buyer up in your area? What does it take to get into a house up there?
I mean, no specific requirements like statewide. There are some programs, but we don't really have access to it on the broker side. That
I mean, value-wise, what was it?
Value-wise. So on average, I would say you could find an older home and get a deal on it. My first deal this year in January was actually a deal that I was both the realtor and the lender on, and these people thought they would never be in a home ever. At that point, we were still eligible for UWM's zero down, which was awesome. I'm still a little sad they took it away, but that was right around 270, 275. So you could potentially become a first-time home buyer with an older dated home right around that price range. And now if we're looking for newer build, nicer neighborhoods, like, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm blank. But anyway, we're probably looking at like 450, 500. But
Well, your house, you guys have a nice house that you just bought last month. Like, how big's that house, and what'd you guys pay for that one?
So this was, we have an unfinished basement. We're sitting right around 3,000 square feet. And we picked it up for right around 400,000.
Cool. And so you have that little chamber door that you throw the 4 kids down there, and then you just close it on them, and they stay in the basement. Yeah, Georgia has a lot of basements. I'm not used to basements, but we have a basement in our house now. It's kind of a walkout basement. Is yours a walkout basement, or is it just a straight up basement? My brother-in-law has a basement that's in the ground.
Basements are weird, right? Especially out here, because some of them are actually built in, and you have like just a little window up top.
Little window. That's my brother-in-law
has. Like the ladders or whatever to climb out, like the egress windows that are required. So this is kind of in between. We have a regular sliding window that you could just open up. You could kind of just push yourself up and be outside. So not walkout, but a little bit of underground.
No, I like it. His house is like 1,100 square feet on top, but it's another 1,100 square feet below the ground. You just walk down these stairs, but it's kind of weird because I'm like, to me, it's like a 2-story house. I mean, everything's finished, down on his, he has rooms and everything, bathrooms, laundry, everything down there. But it's just amazing to me, depending on where you're at, the basements here in Georgia, some people don't finish their basements. Just these big concrete walls. You walk down there like, wow, it looks totally different. We finished ours. So it looks like, because only half of ours is underground. The other half is wide open, like a 2-story house. You go down there, walk out to the backyard and stuff. But, it's a lot cheaper square footage to build than it is everything above the ground. But finishing it is more expensive than the dollars you get for it when it appraises. At least it is in Georgia. And I was like, wait a minute, I just paid $85 to finish it, but I'm only getting $55 in value for it. That's stupid. And they're like, why don't you tell me that? Because didn't make a lot of sense to me. But homes in Georgia, you get a lot for your money over here. I can get a home in Macon, Bonaire, Warner Robins, kind of southern Georgia. I can still get I can still get a first time home buyer for 170 to 200,000 into a real nice 3-bedroom home, decent home. Um, if it gets too old, the air conditioners tend to go out here because it can get pretty warm. So the newer homes would be better for investors if it's 5 years or less. Most of my investors want something that's 5 years or less because they worry about roofs, and they worry about, because we can get some severe weather, especially in the southern part of the state. That's where I have one of my best rentals is by Warner Robins Air Force Base. But I'm just amazed. Macon, they're starting to build down there, but as you head down to Tornado Alley, or you know starting to head into Florida, they get a little different weather down there. And so, you got to be careful what you buy and where you buy stuff like that. I'll not tell you that. I mean, Florida obviously is a big place, but they get the weather too. So where'd you
Yeah,
live in Florida?
hurricane. So born and raised in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Plantation,
Okay.
Aventura, right around that area. But yeah, pretty much just made a dive, and left it all behind. We didn't want to raise our kids, in that craziness.
Okay. How are you feeling about insurance? Are you guys
Love it.
do you have problems with insurance where you're at, versus kind of how Florida is kind of dealing with some stuff?
No, so I absolutely love insurance out here. My auto insurance went from, what was it, like $300-400 a month. When I made the switch over, I second guessed it. I was like, "Are you sure this isn't a month?" Because she quoted me, because I like to pay my premium 6 months just because it's knocked out. Got a little bit of discount on there. She was like, "Oh, $350 for 6 months," and I'm like, "Is that? Are you sure?" And then she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Where's the e-sign? Where do I sign? Where do I pay?" So yeah, no, insurance is way more affordable out here.
That's good to hear. So everybody should start getting ready to travel to Wyoming and get to Casper if you want to save some money. Not everybody realizes that, and I didn't realize that. My insurance was cheaper from California. It's cheaper in Northern California than Southern California, but it was cheaper in Georgia than it was in Northern California. My homeowners is very reasonable. I have no problem. I have a big house, and but there's not really fires out here. We get a lot of rain, like Hawaii. It'll be 85 today, but it might rain for 20 minutes this time of year, and then boom, it's back to 85 degrees. It gets humid, but we're used to it now. I have to tell you, what humidity is from Florida. But you get the same kind of weather, right? The rain comes through. It's like, oh, okay. You just get used to it. The first year was a little tough, and after that, wasn't. We're used to it now. Coming out, everything's green here. Green like I've never seen before. Um, California is very dry. You don't have a lot of water. They sell a lot of the water. They have a lot of dry years. And so when we left, I mean, it was like 4 years straight where they had huge fires, and like it'd just be dark all day because of the smoke. I'm like, man, I can't keep breathing this. It's killing me. Um, so there's a lot of reasons that it was worth making a change, not just business wise, but it's also cheaper tax wise. Financially to live outside of California. Love California, but it just I wanted to retire one day too. So, I'd have to work a lot longer in California to retire. So, add it
I
all
hear
up, and I
that.
got some friends I miss, stuff like that.
Yeah, but you can always travel. So
Yeah. I went 6 times last year, and home's where your family is. My wife, obviously, two of us. I have grandkids now. My sons are here, so everybody's within an hour drive, which is totally cool. But
that's awesome.
you know, you got a lot going on. You really starting to get really busy, but from a lot of different angles, which I really like. This conversation, Alexander, if you could go back and what you know now, but go back to that kid, like back getting ready to get out of high school, and you could give that kid some advice, knowing what you know now, what would you tell that kid today?
Oh man. It's There's just so much that you learn over the years, where
Yeah.
also your mentality when you're that age is, different, so to speak. So I don't know if my younger self would have even listened to the advice that I have to give, so
Say,
to
screw
speak.
you,
But
old man.
you know, yeah, exactly. But the whole invest in real estate is probably one of the best. I've never really heard of anybody regretting purchasing real estate. Um, getting into the investing game would have been probably my advice to that kid. Hey, listen, start picking up doors, start picking up doors. That would be my number one.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I always think if every young person would consider house hacking. I mean, I know people that buy a house, and I'm like, cool. My son bought a house, and he rented the other 2 rooms to his friends because he was the first one to get the house. But I mean, combined, they were almost paying his house payment. He had to kick in a little bit, but he got to figure out what home ownership was. But let alone a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. There's a reason why those are hard to get out there because everybody wants them. Now with the all-in-one, we could actually buy land and build duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes with the all-in-one at UWM. I've even thought about that because land's a lot cheaper out here. And it's hard to get fourplex. They go on the market and they're gone. But man, if I could build a brand new fourplex, I've even I found like a modular home that's a duplex already built. They'll come out and bring it right on your property. And so I'm like, I might need to check that out because I mean, they've come a long way with the design of those. But I'm like, you guys got a fourplex I could drop on? Like it's already done. You come out, it's done in 30 days. But that'd be cool. All right, here's one for you. You're like, Rich, where do these questions come from? Can't let you off that easy. I already asked you that one. Like if you had to start over today, you obviously have a method in place, but what's a failure that ended up being a blessing in disguise for you? What's something that didn't go too well, but turned out, at least you thought it wasn't going well, but it turned out to maybe send you in the right direction because you saw it through, hung with it? I don't know. However that sounds.
I don't know if I call it a failure, so to speak.
All right.
But challenges that I've grown from probably working with my first client on the real estate side. So it was an investor. So wrote many contracts, learned a lot. So it's one of those things where it was a little challenging because I was still kind of new to the real estate side of it, but having the mortgage background also enabled me some. And then also having that great mentor of mine, she was, phone call away. But that was probably a challenge, is working with an investor right out of the gate after getting my real estate license. I don't know. I wrote probably 24 contracts for him. We ended up closing on 2 or 3.
Right. Here's what's funny is I don't know if your Metro list is the same in your zip docs and all that, because now it's all I just type it in electronically and I only have to fill in a few things. When I first started, everything was you typed it, and so it was like 6 pages, 7 pages, and you had to type it all as in triplicate, and then you'd rip it apart and send these offers in. But like my investors, there's in 2008, 9, when those crashes were going, I had one dude, 1 month I wrote 40 offers for him. And he was so aggressive, but I was hungry. I needed something. So I got good at writing them. But here's also what I did. This was my cheat. I had worked with some purchasers and I knew some realtors, like their contracts were always they knew what they were doing. And so I kept a couple copies of those. And I use those as cheat sheets to say, okay, let me go down this page. Okay, I see what they marked and why they didn't mark. And I would use those well-written contracts to help me write my contract because I didn't know what I was doing. And but it made sense very quickly when you write that many offers. But investors, they will make a lot of offers because the numbers have to be right. And sometimes they can see something and say, that's been sitting for a long time. I wonder if they'd take a lesser offer. Let's try it. And I had to learn it's okay. People would take it personal. I'm like, look, I got to where I would call verbally and say, hey, I've got an offer possibly. This is what they're thinking. Oh, they'll never take it. Or, you know what? Hey, write it up. We might consider that. All right, I'm going to write that up. So that's one thing I learned too, is to actually call the other agents and talk to them versus just submitting.
Yeah.
But little
And
things
like you
like
said,
that.
you never know what somebody's situation is and what they would take for property. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
When was it? Last year, there was a deal I did in New Orleans area, triplex, investor. I did the loan on this, and I was just completely baffled. He got 100 and close to 150. I want to say 130, 140 off of what the original asking price was, and that was just by him doing a lowball offer. And then when inspections came in, he just lowballed it again, and I was like, "Wow, you picked that up near, downtown." That was an incredible, that like completely opened my mind, like, hey, you don't know unless you ask.
Right. I had one, Brian Pitts works with us here, but he does a lot of DSCR, big ones down in Florida. I mean, they could be 2 million, 3 million, but some of these have big houses with a separate house, a casitas or a pool house, things like that. But sometimes the
Mother-in-law
house is
suite,
in good
ADU,
shape,
yeah.
but the pool house is thrashed from the weather and they haven't fixed that up. But, you know, it's going to devalue it. So these guys will make offers knowing that the appraisal isn't going to come in with the pool house needing the repairs. And that's their method. Like, hey, not a problem. We'll give you what you want, subject to that appraisal and our inspections. And then they go at it. But you're like, well, that's not that big a deal. But these guys are buying some big homes. But you get $400,000 or $500,000 off a $2 million property. It is a lot. But I was like, God, but and then they know how to come in and fix that stuff and do it. But I've seen people buy big properties like that too, at Gatlinburg, Tennessee, $2 million, $3 million Airbnbs, that can hold 20 people in them. You know, that's one of the most visited places. I never heard of it until I moved to Georgia. And then I'm like, wow, a lot of people go there. Very interesting. Well, here's a question for you. I always ask people, I know it's not on the list or anything like that as a possible question, but you got me one-on-one. Is there any questions I can answer for you? Maybe there's not, but I always want to make sure that you can ask me questions.
Honestly, no, not at the moment.
Okay.
Like, I mean, one question: what drives you? What makes you get up in the morning every day and do everything that you do?
Well, and that's a good question because it's not what it used to be. That has changed over time too. When I was younger, it was my family. But I feel like I've got my family taken care of to a point now that I know everybody's going to be okay. So now what drives me still is you guys. Like, I want a platform that people can feel comfortable and help each other to change their lives, right? Whether you should get the lion's share of the money, if we can find another program. I love the fact that we might be getting ready to go through a run with the lower rates and or possibly busyness. I would love to see everybody that took a chance on Xpert get another 3, 4, or 5 years run under them. Because you guys all will know exactly what to do, but to see you do 4 times the amount of business that you're doing and watch you have money to spend. I mean, you're making it happen, but you could have 5 to 10 properties in a couple of years. And we're having these conversations. I've seen people do that in my last platform. I've seen people's lives changed forever. Now their kids' lives are changed, stuff like that. And that makes me feel like I'm doing something, because there has to be more than just doing loans for people. I love seeing people get in houses. That's mostly what we do here. We get people in the houses and we start them on that journey. We take care of our realtors, helping them change their lives. The borrowers are not my customer. I feel like you're my customer and your realtor's my customer. And my job is to help you guys look good, make you successful, help you anything that I can, because I know your customer is counting on you. And, that's why I'm very thankful for you guys, because your knowledge level and what you've been doing the last 24 months, make you a very cool person to talk to and do business with, because you're now seasoned, you're now knowledgeable, you have wisdom to bring to the table. Because I'll tell you right now, probably 90% of the licensed people out there probably 97% of licensed people out there don't have a rental property, either on the real estate side or the loan officer side. It might even be worse than that. Most people are afraid to take that first step, but yet it's what we do for people every day. So you're living
Correct.
proof it can be done. And here's a question. The first time you did it, was it easy?
No, no, no. I don't think when you first do anything, it's easy.
Okay.
Maybe you can avoid some of the pain. I mean, with everything available to us today, ChatGPT, Google, knowledge, information is power, right? But at the end of the day, experience comes into play too. And not having that experience, it's going to make it not as easy as it can be. Now, ask me how I'm doing fourth, fifth property, and I'm probably going to tell you super easy. Know exactly what I'm doing. I got a whole system down packed to science, but I don't think when you first do something, it's ever easy, no matter
Right.
what, because
Um,
it's a learning curve. You got to learn, you got to adjust, you got to pivot.
no, I agree. I agree. The first time that you did it though, did you have a mentor, anybody, or you just said, you know what, let's take a chance?
I just said, let's take a chance. I mean, we do this day in, day out for other people. So why, like you said, why don't we do it for ourselves? So that's kind of, hey, let's just take a plunge right in and see
No,
what
that's
happens.
awesome. Yeah, that's I. That's why this interview ended up being so good, because of all that you're doing. I hope a lot of people watch this. I'll make sure I get in front of a lot of people, including a lot of our expert people, because so many of them are afraid to take that first step. But I can tell you, I know of 5 people in the last year that have bought their first rental property, and it's there. I know one single mom, she's already bought 2. So I'm like, okay, she does a lot of investors, and they're like, you need to start doing this. And she's like, I am not going to just sit here with only one source of income. And that's my thing. You should never have just one source of income if you have a way to help make it work. And by the way, there's by the way, there's homes that are 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Ohio that you can buy that are in good middle class homes. They're clean homes for $99,000. Do a DSCR, put 30% down, you probably get away with 20% on that. But they're good rent to value ratios, and they're good neighborhoods. These aren't torn down neighborhoods. California, $500,000 to get you in that market, and you better be ready to put 50% down just to break even. So I mean, markets, do not be afraid to crisscross into other markets. I had Georgia rentals before I even left California. I have a property here that I've never even seen. It was all done electric, and the real estate agent, my son, they all saw it and they said, hey, this looks good. But it was almost brand new. I think it was 3 years old at the time. So I'm like, hey, I don't need to see it because I'm going to have the reports. I can see all the pictures. I don't need to physically step foot. And to this day, I've never stepped foot at that house, but it's been an incredible investment for us. And it's right by a base. So we like helping, people that serve us have good properties to live in for their family, especially if they get deployed, things like that. I want them to know that they don't have no problems. The roof ain't caving in. They got enough to worry about when they're separated, stuff like that. So that's kind of like my little angle that I like doing. But I want to say thank you, dude. Thank you for coming to Xpert. Thank you for sharing your time today. Thank you for just being real. You dropped a lot of nuggets today for people to sit and just push play, grab a beer, and just listen. But man, thanks for everything that you do for Xpert. You make us look really good, and I wish you nothing but success again for 2025. And I think it's going to get crazy here, And I hope that you're like, because it's busy when it's not busy because you're trying to get business, and then it's crazy when you have a lot of business. There is no kind of in between. It's just whether you hire extra people to help you, but we're kind of always busy doing something.
That's another thing. Let me touch on that. So one of my biggest issues when I first started doing loans is I wanted to know everything from start to finish. So that meant, I wanna process my own loans. I want to know exactly how to balance with title, all the escrow, everything. Now what happened was it was very hard for me to give up that control. So like we were talking about, activities that, you know, are income producing versus not. Processing is not one of them, unfortunately. But I had to kind of, it took me years to kind of, hey, here you go. Here's complete file, process it for me. But again, it's also a good thing because now if anything goes south, I can just hop in and boom, I know exactly how to do it, so to speak.
No, that's
But
good.
I wanted to thank you as well. Thank you and everybody at Xpert for building out this wonderful platform. It's enabled me to do a lot. And honestly, I do get calls sometimes from other people trying to recruit me, and I kind of just flip the switch. And
Yeah.
I've almost recruited a couple people by doing that. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But hey, have you listened? Have you heard about Xpert? Here's what we can do for you.
I get recruited too, just so you know. I'm like, yeah, I'm the broker. Probably not going to do that. You know, can we just get
Yeah.
you on a call with John next week sometime? He just will take 5 minutes of your time. And I'm like, well, let me pull up your NMLS. I want to make sure you guys are in good standing. Okay, I just want to double check. Is this right? You guys have 25 loan originators? Maybe I should talk to John, but maybe it should be a different conversation about John coming my way. Um, because they're just calling a list, and I know that, but it's crazy. Well, dude, thanks so much for your time. Alexander Lexington, you guys caught him. There he is. I hope you guys just keep nailing it and doing it. The fact that you guys are on the same page, your kids are getting to see you do things that the average person doesn't get. I mean, entrepreneur, self-employed, got to make your own income. And once you learn to do that, you'll never put that shackle around your leg again, because that freedom, you're teaching the next generation. Your kids are like, well, how come you didn't have to work? Well, I was working, don't get me wrong, but I figured out how to be my own boss. I'm a CEO of
And I
my
mean, like,
own business.
it really is. There isn't anything like it where, majority of my work gets done from home.
Right.
So I get to be home around the kids, see them grow up, and just be a part of all of it. And that's a blessing in and of itself.
Well, right on. Congratulations on all you're doing. I do appreciate the interview. And like we always say, when we have an incredible interview, stay thirsty, my friends.
Oh, I will.
All right, dude. Thanks so much for your time today. I'll get this set up. I'll make sure a lot of people see it.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
All right, Alexander. Take care, buddy.
Talk to you later. Bye.